Hey, everybody, welcome. Hey, as you're joining, if you could just go ahead and put your current city and school in the chat. So, for example, I could do Frankie from Millington, go to Millington Central High School. All right, seeing some Memphis, some Germantown. So we're gonna be talking about local governments today. So just trying to get an idea. Got some Nashville. Welcome from Nashville. Of where everybody is from, so we can talk about some of the dividing lines of local government between Memphis and some of these other cities here in Shelby County. All right. All right, so I just pulled up my presentation. Can somebody just give me a thumbs up if they can see the PowerPoint? Perfect, perfect. All right, welcome everybody. We've got 30 minutes and we've got a lot to cover. So I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of an intro on myself and how I got into local government first, and we're going to jump into how local government works here in Shelby County. So right now I work as special assistant to Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris. That is an appointed role. Before that, I served on his campaign as his deputy campaign manager. So got some political campaign experience. But really how I got into local government is I was not older than many of you. So I went to Millington Central High School and grew up in Millington. And about a year after I graduated from high school, I was at college at Rhodes. And I decided to run for office in my hometown of Millington, run for alderman. So an alderman is basically a city council person in Millington. So what did that look like? So I was 19 and got my friends together. We decided we were going to run for office. We had no idea how to do it. We met up at a McDonald's because back then, all the way back in 2011, believe it or not, we did not have, all of us did not have smartphones and Wi-Fi everywhere we went. So we had to meet at McDonald's for free Wi-Fi and cheap food. And we decided we were going to run for alderman in my hometown. To do that, you had to decide who you were going to run against and how your campaign was going to go. So we decided to run against the longest serving incumbent on the Board of Aldermen. He was on the Board of Aldermen for about 18 years, so almost as many years as I had been alive at that point. And basically, we Googled a lot. We Googled a lot on how to run for office, how to run a campaign. And we all took our summers off and basically made it our summer internship after our sophomore year of college to run this campaign for alderman. We knocked on a couple thousand doors across my city. And by the end of the summer, we were successful and we won the election by a pretty wide margin. So 59%. Even larger than Biden beat Trump by this time around. So all that to say is running for office, why I did it, I showed up to a meeting and I realized that the folks that were representing us didn't look like the folks that I grew up in with in my city. They were all a couple decades older than myself, and I just felt like we needed youth perspective on our board. So ran for office, got elected, was actually served 2 terms, so ran for re-election 4 years later and served a second term as well on the Millington Board of Aldermen. So after that, I stepped down from that role and assumed a new role as special assistant to Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris. So still very much in local government, just in county government, and no longer in that elected role. So just wanted to give you a little bit of overview on my background. So it's a little bit on today's objectives. We're going to discuss the role of local government, Try to keep it as interesting as possible. An overview of local governments here in Shelby County, how decisions are made in local government, so really the nuts and bolts of it. And then finally, just I'm going to suggest some next steps, but we can talk about sort of next steps on how to get involved in local government. Also, I see a lot of folks that I know here, Zara, I see a ton of Shelby County Youth Council members. So all of you, please feel free. If you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat or raise your hand and we can do it throughout the presentation. So I want to make sure that, please chime in as well. So local government here in Shelby County. Let's hold up. All right. So first off, let's go with who's responsible. So this is the first question we're going to ask. So obviously, in the United States, the government isn't just one all-encompassing entity. There are federal, state, and local governments, and where those dividing lines can be a little confusing. So the first question you want to ask yourself whenever you're trying to make a change or suggest a change to government is who is responsible. So many of you probably have learned about this in school. Federal government, sort of those large encompassing issues that affect the entire nation as a whole or are specifically enumerated in the Constitution. So immigration, declaring war. State government has a little bit of different roles, and really the specific roles are based on the state constitution as well. But for example, here in Tennessee, the state is the primary policymaker for education. So while there's a lot that local school boards can do, when you're thinking about how much they actually get funded from the state and so forth, the state government is making those decisions. Finally, local government, what we're going to talk about here today, those are mayor, sheriff, commissioners. I like to think about that. Those are really in charge of the stuff that's really the closest to you and your neighborhood. So policing, parks, the specifics of how we designed our education system. Okay, local government here in Shelby County. A few trivia questions, and I do not have any virtual prizes, so this is really just for pride. But if you could put your answer in the chat. So first off, how many cities are in Shelby County? Hint, they're probably on your screen right now. All right. I don't see any answers coming through. There we go. 9. All right. 9. Let's see. Close. 6. No correct answers yet. There we go. 7. 7. All right. From Tech Davis Cox. So great job, Davis. I'm not gonna, or Tech. I don't know if your first name's Tech. But I'm not gonna ask you to name them, but like I said, they are on the screen. So those are those municipal governments as well. So we have 7 different cities in Shelby County. Each city has their own rules and own dividing lines, and each city has their own governing body. So you got the county government, but you also have each of these municipalities. So as you can imagine, that can get a little interesting. So next question, how many school boards are in Shelby County? So how many school boards are in Shelby County? Oh, I'm sorry, Yasmin got it first. Tech, you're so honest. So Yasmin, sorry, I didn't give you the credit. You got the number of cities first. All right, we got a lot of answers coming through. None of them right so far on how many school boards are in Shelby County. Unless you know something I don't know. All right, close. We're getting close. So looks like 7 is the correct answer, unless I'm wrong. So there are some charter schools and they might have charter school boards. So that is I guess an asterisk next to this answer, but there are 7 school boards. So each of the municipalities outside of Memphis have their own school board. So those of you that attend Germantown's, schools, this. I think I saw someone from Collierville. You attend Collierville schools, so you have your own local school board that's making those decisions. And then finally, you have the largest school system, obviously, here in Shelby County Schools. And the city of Memphis does not have their own school board. So Shelby County Schools, and then each of the other smaller 6 municipalities. All right, this one should be easy. How many county commissions do we have in Shelby County? 1. 11. Tech, you're wrong. Brianna, I don't know. You're a little off by 13. So we only have one county commission. So the county commission oversees the entire county in terms of their responsibilities, but they don't necessarily, they're not in charge of the other municipal governments here in town. So it's always still important to ask that question, who's responsible, who has the responsibility here? And most of the time you can get those answers on Google. And hopefully you'll get some of the answers here in today's presentation. All right, so final question, and then we're gonna move into this, I appreciate Tech and all of the participants so far. So how many mayors are in Shelby County? How many mayors? Close, Kim. Close, Jeremiah. Close, Jada. There we go, 8. That's exactly right, so 8. So each of the 7 municipalities, Millington, Germantown, Collierville, Bartlett, have their own mayor, as well as my boss, Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris. So he is the mayor of all of Shelby County, and each of the municipalities, including the city of Memphis, has their own mayor. So, all right, enough with the trivia. For today's purposes, we only have 30 minutes, so I'm going to kind of talk really through Shelby County government. And then if you have any questions about your government or local government where you are, happy to take those as well, and I'll do my best. So Shelby County government is governed by a mayor-commissioner form of government. So the commissioners really have a ton of duties, but these are the folks that are really enacting policies and setting the policies for the local government. The mayor is in charge of executing those policies. So what does that look like? In practice, the mayor can't really do anything large that's going to affect your life without the approval of the commissioners. So the mayor can only spend up to $50,000 without the approval of the commissioners. So any of those items have to go on a commission agenda to be voted on. There obviously are some exceptions, but generally the commissioners are the ones that set that main policy, bring constituents' voice to the table. So those are your first point of contact if you're trying to get your voice heard in Shelby County government. All right, so this might be a little blurry, but this is just a little org chart for Shelby County government. So you see the electorate at the top, that's us. Those are the voters. We vote for the Board of Commissioners, the mayor, and then all of these other county-wide elected positions that we're not gonna really get into today, but just wanted to put that in front of you. And then you can see the Board of Commissioners doesn't have a lot of direct responsibilities over sort of offices or anything like that. That's not their role, right? So their role is to set the policies and then the mayor executes them. So the mayor is in charge of public works, parks and so forth, all of those. So Shelby County government is a little unique. Most mayors also have the police force underneath them, and they basically hire the police chief and can hire and fire officers. Shelby County is a little different. So we have an elected Shelby County sheriff. So he is responsible for all law enforcement within Shelby County. So what does that mean? It means that the mayor that I work for, Mayor Harris, can't just go and set a policy for the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. He can't say, that all Shelby County sheriffs are going to take on a new policy regarding excessive force or anything like that. He has to work with the sheriff, and the sheriff has to set that policy. There is an exception because the county commission still is in charge of budget. So the county commission is still in charge of how much money the sheriff gets on a regular basis. So while the sheriff sets the policies for his administration, the county commission can really have some influence on what they do in terms of money. So I'll give you this example for, those of us that are in bridges. Bridge Builders Change are working on a policy regarding counselors, not cops. So they're trying to make sure that our school system has the mental health resources and not law enforcement in schools that they need. So the county commission can actually do that. They can defund what the sheriff's office does and set that policy. All right, so earlier we kind of hit on this a little bit. So lots of different city governments here in town. And for all the things I just said around Shelby County government, that's pretty much still stands for these municipal governments. So if you live in Germantown and you are trying to address a Germantown police issue, you would go to the mayor of Germantown or one of your Germantown aldermen. You wouldn't go to the Shelby County Sheriff, even though he's over sheriff's deputies, Shelby County sheriffs, and you wouldn't go to the Shelby County mayor. So that's just important to know when you're deciding what issue you want to take on, to really decide who has that power. And we're going to get into that a little bit more in just a moment. So each of these city governments also have their own sort of guiding laws. So that's a charter. All of these are available publicly. So like I said, I'm going to say it a number of times throughout this. Google is your friend when navigating local government. In my job right now, whenever I don't know an answer, I just Google around. So for example, the city of Millington has their own charter. It's available on their website. And through that document, you can really see who has what authority to do what. Finally, elected school boards. So we talked about the 7 school boards here in Shelby County. So the elected school boards still have a lot of authority here in Shelby County to get things done. So this is when you're really looking at specific policies in your school. So whether or not you're open during this pandemic, whether or not it's fully digital, hybrid, or in person, that is a school board decision. The Shelby County mayor is not making that decision, and your board of aldermen or your city council isn't making that decision. How much teachers are paid are made by board members. And going back to the counselors, not cops example, what Shelby County, what the Bridge Builders Change is trying to do. So the Shelby County Commission can move funding away from cops being in school and put it into a pot for Shelby County schools to hire guidance counselors. But unless the Shelby County School Board takes action with that money, then it won't happen. So that's just one example of a sort of dividing line here. Finally, there is a lot of power in appointed volunteer boards and commissions. So Shelby County alone has dozens of volunteer boards and commissions that provide oversight and decisions and really set the strategy for everything from our parks here in Shelby County, from Shelby Farms to our smaller parks, to oversight of the juvenile jail in our system. A lot of people don't talk about these boards and commissions that often, but you can find them on the Shelby County website, a full listing. And I wanted to mention this because most boards, to be on them, you only have to be 18 and a resident of the area. And each city, as well as Shelby County as a whole, has these appointed boards. So an example of this would be like Land Use Control Board, which is in charge of planning and development. So these are people that don't have to run for office. Typically, the process is that the individual is selected or appointed by the mayor of wherever we are. So in Shelby County, it would be the Shelby County mayor. If you were trying to get appointed to a Germantown board, it would be Germantown Mayor Mike Palazzola. And then they have to go before the board to be confirmed. So this would be going before the Board of Aldermen or the City Council to be confirmed. So the mayor has to put that on the agenda. And then once you get appointed to that board, you attend a regular meeting and you are basically deciding policy for that area. All right. All that to say, just an overview of local government here in Shelby County. So please, like I said, if you have any questions over the course of it, I will try to get to them, trying to look at the chat as well. So please feel free to put those in the chat. But so when you're thinking about making a change or advocating for change, there's just a couple key questions you want to ask yourself at the start of this. Because you don't want to be asking the wrong people or going to the wrong meetings or anything like that on the issue that you're working on. So first, what is the issue? Is the issue, for example, within a school? Because then it would be school board. Is the issue within a police force? So if it's an issue that you experienced with City of Bartlett Police and you're not happy with how the City of Bartlett Police handled an issue, then you would go to either the Bartlett Mayor or a Bartlett Alderman. If the issue is with the Shelby County Sheriff, you would go to the Shelby County Sheriff, not necessarily the mayor or commissioner. Now, all that to say is you could still go to those individuals if you want to raise it to them. So first point of contact, like I said, it's identifying who is really responsible for this, who wants to hear about this issue. Is it your Shelby County Commissioner? Is it your school board member? Or is it the sheriff? So these individuals, all of them, their email addresses are publicly available. And if you have an issue or if you have a concern, I encourage you to email them. They don't get a lot of emails, and I guarantee you they will respond. So email them. That's first point of contact. And finally, what can be done? If there's no formal action needed, if it's just something that somebody needs to be reprimanded, maybe that's it. Or is there a formal action needed? And those usually take place in the form of resolutions or ordinances, which I'm going to get into now. So how decisions are made in local government: three primary ways. One, meetings, and those include resolutions and ordinances. Two is the annual budget process. So resolutions are typically, these are one-off items. So in their meeting, they have an agenda, and the agenda is full of either resolutions or ordinances. Resolutions are usually like to spend money on something. So let's say you want to, the school board wants to purchase new computers for all of the fourth grade. That'll be a resolution on the school board agenda to purchase $50,000 worth of new computers for all of fourth grade. An ordinance is a law. So that's typically something a little bit more all-encompassing. So if the school board wanted to pass an, I don't think they're necessarily called ordinance, but if a school board wanted to pass an ordinance that every fourth grader gets a new laptop at the beginning of the fourth grade year, and that is going to be a policy that is followed throughout the years, that would be an ordinance and something that they would have to follow from year to year. Finally, budget process, which I'm going to get into a little bit more. So key questions on meetings where resolutions or ordinances are presented. If you want to get something done, usually it's in the form of a resolution or an ordinance. So your first question is, who is your champion? Who's going to bring this to the table? How do you get something on to the agenda? So for example, you want to make a relationship with an alderman or a commissioner that feels the same way you do about the issue, and they commit to taking that to the table. Second question, where is the agenda? How do you find it? So all these agendas are posted on the local government websites, and you can find the agenda before their meeting. It's state law that they have to be published at least within 24 hours before a meeting. One of the most important is, how do I add something to the agenda? So this goes back to your champion. They should know how to add something to the agenda if it's a commissioner or an alderman. But once again, if you want a local government to take action on an issue, most of the time it has to be through a resolution or an ordinance, and it has to be put on their agenda for them to take action. Next question is, how many readings does it take? So can this be accomplished in one meeting, or does it take multiple meetings? So for resolutions, typically it can be put on in a meeting agenda, and then after that meeting, it's done. If they vote on it, they vote yes, or vote no, it's done. Those ordinances, which we talked about, are more in the form of laws. Those typically take multiple readings. So for example, most typically take 2 to 3 readings. When I was in Millington, it was 3, and at the county commission, it is 2 readings. So that means that you have to not only show up to that first meeting, but you have to make sure that it's on the agenda for the second meeting as well. You have to email them and make sure that you have your votes. Finally, what is your vote number? What is your win number? How many votes does it take to get accomplished what you're trying to accomplish? So if it's a standard resolution, most of the time it's just a majority of the board that you're trying to get in. So if there's 7 people on the board, you only have to get 4. However, there are certain circumstances where it takes a supermajority. So you might not need 4 votes for this. You might need 5 out of those 7 votes. That's a big difference when you're trying to get something done that's contentious. So it's really important on the front end to know that win number, so you can go ahead and identify the commissioners or the aldermen or city council people that agree with you and that will vote in your way. Let's see. I've got a question. If we wanted to get diverse literature passed in our schools beside the superintendent, who would we need to talk to? Thank you for that question, Brianna. So I think go to this key question. So who's your champion? I believe most school boards, the school board representative or your school board commissioner can put anything on the agenda. So all you need is one school board member to say, I agree that we need diverse literature in our curriculum, and I'm going to put that on the agenda at our next school board meeting. So second question, where's the agenda? Got to fact check these politicians. Got to make sure they actually got that on the agenda. And if they didn't, ask them how they can add it to the agenda. Finally, how many readings does it take? Is it just one thing? So to change the curriculum in your schools, is it just one meeting and then you can get it done, or does it take multiple? And then the last question, how many votes does it take? You're getting that one school board commissioner to agree with you is the first step. But unless you can get a majority of them to vote for it, then you're not going to be successful. So you really want to do that work on the front end before it ever goes on to in the meeting. You want to have those conversations with those commissioners. Thank you, Brianna, for that question. All right, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. So budgets, these are annual. These are an annual process that they go through. So the budget, it's a big, scary, confusing document. The easiest way to look at it is it's a plan for the year ahead, how they are going to spend money and do things over the year ahead. So key questions, where can you find the current budget? All of these, once again, on the websites, you can find where they're spending the money. When can I advocate for my item to be added to the budget? This is an important question because these budget processes only happen once a year. And usually they take about a month or so to do. So for example, in Shelby County, I believe the budget process usually gets started around April or May. So that is when you want to advocate. So when they're putting together this budget, you want to get with the commissioner, get with the mayor and say, I want to get this added to the budget. How do items get added to the budget? So in Shelby County, for example, the mayor puts together the budget. So that's one way to get an item added to the budget. Just ask the mayor to have it on there. But the commissioners can actually add items to the budget as they are voting on it. So if you have one commissioner champion that wants your item added, say you want to double the funding for the Shelby County Youth Council, only takes one commissioner to propose it, and it's going to take multiple commissioners to get it done. So a majority of commissioners. There's 13 commissioners. So you'll need at least 7 commissioners to vote that and get that on there. And then finally, when's the final vote on this budget? Also an important question, because if you don't get your item in the budget before the final vote, it is very hard to change it. So what do I mean by it's hard to change it? So the budget is